Yeah, before I had an L5 stress fracture in my back, and I went to Virtua, and it was multiple PTs. It was a different PT every day, and it was very basic training, just strengthening that area, and that was all I was focused on. With Rehabletics, I think it came with not only taking the injury at hand, but also learning more about my body and what can prevent that injury in the future.
What knowledge do you feel like you've been able to gain through this experience that you might not have gotten otherwise?
I think a ton. I've always been told that I have a tight body, and I thought it was just kind of either genetic or just the way I was. And with Dr. Jamie and Dr. Lindsay, they both taught me that, injuries can be prevented. You can do things. You're never stuck. You're never just tight. It's not your genetics. There's things you can do to make yourself better as an athlete and in everyday life. So I would say the basic thing that I've learned from here, from Rehabletics, was that, there's always something to do. You're never at a dead end. And whether it's your shoulder, knee, hip, whatever it is, there's something there to unlock at the end of the day. And there's something that'll make your training better, and it'll take you to the next level if you dedicate yourself to it.
Like the new independence that you have with this knowledge, like how do you think that's going to help you athletically being not here?
Well, that's also a very tough thing as a college athlete. Is you come here and everybody, you go home and you train, and but when you go to school, you're on your own. You have different coaches, you have different training, people telling you different things to do. I think the biggest thing here is connection that I have is I feel like, you guys have provided me with such an environment that when I'm at school, I can reach out at any time. And I'm not on my own, and I can ask you questions, whether it's about my injury, my shoulder, my lower half, how it's working. And there's a lot of things that come with that. But when you're at school, there is a sense of responsibility of what you've learned and putting it in, keeping it going when you're not directly coming in here. So I think at the end of the day, when I go to school, I know what I've learned here, and I've done it so many times. I think I've done 8 weeks, something like that, here at Rehabletics. So about 2 months of training where I have things for my shoulder, I have things for my lower half, and when you're at school, it's all about how far you want to go. I have a dream of, playing professional baseball. I think Rehabletics has brought me a lot closer to that dream, and, when I've had some doubts about, whether it's my shoulder being hurt or, my body not working as efficiently as it can be, I think Rehabletics kind of showed me that, hey, it's not going to be easy, nothing's going to be handed to you, but it's possible, dude. So at the end of the day, when I go back to school, and for every athlete that goes to, any school, any college, whatever it is, the work you take here is going to stay with you, because when you go back, you're going to know, and you're going to look at the training side by side, and you're going to either see how well you feel when you were with Jamie and Lindsay, and how well you feel when you're doing stuff that, I'm not saying that is not as good, but it's not as efficient for what you're going for in your sport.
Well, Chuck of now is talking to Chuck of then.
I'd say two things. Well, it first started with, you said dark thoughts. I mean, when, as a baseball player, you have, you got one arm, and, the shoulder can be a death sentence at the end of the day. So those dark thoughts were, did the labrum go? Did the rotator cuff go? Which one is it? I got lucky that it was just, a little slap. There's a little slap tear on it. But I'd say the advice that I would say to myself is, saddle up, dude. Like, you come in here and, you do your evaluations, you do everything. And I think at times my prior PT was, it's going to be tedious, but it's going to be easy. It's not that bad. It's basic stuff. It's basic training. nothing crazy. And then when I came here, I remember it was like maybe my third or fourth day, and I had said, you know, hey, that wasn't that bad. And it was either to you or Lindsay. And you guys had told me, man, a couple weeks we're gonna step this up. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm not gonna lie, it was like, it turned into a different type of training for me. And that's a big thing that I loved about coming here. You know, while rehabbing my shoulder, which I never thought it would be, back to my thoughts before of my injury, was that it was always just gonna be shoulder, 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 shoulder. Get it stronger, get it ready. Hopefully we'll be throwing by August. If I'm not mistaken, I think I was throwing in mid to early July.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy, nothing off the mound, but I was throwing, and I was throwing well, and I felt good. And I would say probably about the 3-week mark is when the shoulder training kind of went out the window, because that's what you guys do here. I mean, it's not just physical therapy. It's, hey, we're going to teach you things, and we're going to work you out. We're going to train you to a point where I forgot about my shoulder, whether I was throwing, whether I was here. And yeah, I got a lot of attention. I got dry needle cupping, all of that fun stuff. You know, we did a lot of shoulder work, for sure. Beat my shoulders up with BFR, everything. But at a certain point, I forgot about my shoulder, and that's when I knew that Rehabletics was different. Because when I broke my back, man, I couldn't stop thinking about it, whether it was gonna give out again. I was in back braces. That's all they focused on. Back, back, back. You know, let's strengthen it. By 3 weeks here, and I had done that PT for about 2.5, 3 months. By the 3rd week here, I was worried. I was looking at how well my lower half was moving. And then I started getting on the mound. I started progressing my throwing, and I took video, and I saw so many differences in a month and a half of training. And I was like, that's when I go back to school, that's what keeps you there. It's because you see a month and a half, well, what happens if you stick it out for 6, 12 months? It could be scary of what you could turn into. And a lot of people hear physical therapy and they think injury, which for me was what was the difference and the shocking point of how I didn't even hear about you guys at first. I had to do research.
Yeah.
And then I found it and I came to it and I said, wow, this isn't like physical therapy. This is the training I needed. So back to the question on telling myself about those dark thoughts about Chuck before my shoulder injury, I would just say that, man, it's the best thing that ever happened to you. You learned so much about shoulder health, arm health, but you learned about how not to freak out, how everything's gonna be okay. And at the end of the day, how this was the best thing that probably could have ever happened to becoming the pitcher, the player, to achieving my dream.